Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to episode 272 of my weekly social media marketing talk show. I've been doing this for quite a few years and I love doing it. There's always something exciting going on in social media each and every week. In particular, this week, we're going to be talking about, we're going to talk Twitter verification in 2021. We're going to be talking about, what else we got? A little YouTube Shorts action. We've got some updates to Instagram Reels and Stories. Jem and I are also going to be talking about a new tool, or I'll say tool, actually, a new app that's out. Well, I don't even say if it's new because it's not really new. It's been out for a few years. It's called Clubhouse. We're going to just talk if there are any merits for you as a business owner, if you should use it. And we've also got some great tools we want to share with you in what is essentially our last episode of 2020. I know a lot of people are excited to, I think a lot of people are excited for 2021 and what it brings or should bring, hopefully. But I'm going to go and bring on Jem. Jem, fantastic having you back for what is the last episode of 2021. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, and happy New Year's Eve to everyone. I'm hopefully it will be a happier year, but we know it's not going to be right away. It was a lot of fun to get our latest Launch Your Live episode out with Marco Novo talking about how to find guests for your live shows, and good to see our friend Tim checking in. Tim, hope you're enjoying some Dunkin' Donuts. I think you're having Maple Donuts coffee, so I'll be curious how that tastes. And but yeah, I think we got some great topics to talk about, and of course, I kind of laugh now because you've got this stick of dynamite next to you now.
And actually, so here's I'll tell people what this is. So we by the way, how does the audio sound? It sounds a little loud to me, but what do you?
No, you sound good. You I think you finally have discovered whatever that gremlin was. So it sounds good.
Here's the one thing to know about just audio in general. So you can't just go buy a microphone and, for example, buy an audio mixer or a mixing board and whatnot. Like you can, but you may run into some initial challenges with it. And that's what I've had with the Shure SM7B mic that I use when I used it with my Rodecaster Pro. And the funny thing is there's people that use the same equipment. They don't have this at all. But in my case, I do need to have this dynamite stick. And basically what this does is, and hopefully this doesn't get flagged, by the way. So what this basically does is it increases the gain. So like this mic needs a lot of power. And so what this does is it gives me like 20 something plus decibel. And so it gives me the power that I need to be able to run it through my mixer. So that's basically what it does. And it helps clean things up and make sure it sounds good and whatnot. So that's what that is. So glad we actually have it fixed. Yeah. Okay. So Jem, I know we have a lot of topics to talk about this week. Where do you want to start? Because like we said, we have quite a few to discuss.
Do you want to start with Twitter verification?
Sure. What's going on here? What do we got?
Yeah. So I, it's been a little while since Twitter had a verification, the famous or infamous blue check. And so they stopped doing it. And so they're actually starting next month, which is tomorrow, sometime. They're going to start to allow people to apply for verification again. I was never a verified account before. I never had put in. I think maybe when I, thought maybe I had enough people for them to give me a verification, it was like, well, can't get it now. So I think it's good in a way because it's kind of like you want to make sure you're dealing with the real person or business. I think that's always been an issue with a lot of these social media sites. I mean, even now, right? As an example, your Instagram account, could get hacked. I mean, literally somebody will scrape your picture, use the same name and have a slight change in the handle. And then they'll be sending you a message or a friend request. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought I was already friends with Christian. So I think this is good. I don't know in some aspects why they make it so difficult to do that. Uh-oh. And
Nope. Yeah.
I wondered where we went. I was like, what?
No, we're here actually. I'm just playing with some of the different views.
Okay. You're playing with some of the new stuff. All right.
I decided to
'cause you
solo the image. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. StreamYard's coming out with some nice new features. So, but yeah, so that's to me in a nutshell, kind of what it's about. So I think it's like it says, large audience, or notable, government, whatever. So you're going to have to build your following to get that verification. And I could see where, maybe some of these companies that want to work with, people of, we'll call it people of influence. I know we kind of say that tongue in cheek sometimes because apparently I'm an Amazon influencer and I just kind of laugh at that title. But this might be what they're looking for if they're going to work with a brand or individual type of thing.
Very possible. Now, I will say this. One thing that really stands out to me for the Twitter verification process. So I know before, when the verification process was around, you and I always questioned this because there were people that would get a verification and we didn't really understand how those people actually even had a verification or why they even had one. Because to us, they really weren't even influential. I mean, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's people that, they'd have maybe a few thousand followers at the most, and somehow they had a verified account. And so what really stood out to me here, though, is the fact that with Twitter verification, Twitter can actually take your verification away with the 2021 requirements. Now, that's the part I think that's really pretty fascinating with this. I mean, because a lot of people, they rush to get this Twitter verification, but then now that you have it, they do want you to have some of the basic things like, for example, they want you to have a complete profile. So they've defined what that means. So, it no longer requires a profile bio or header image. No big deal. They've updated the references to Wikipedia for better alignment with the encyclopedia's published standards. So for notability and audio or article quality, they've also started changing some of the categories. So like news is also now broken into news and journalists. So like there's not too many categories, for example. And then the other thing though is, the minimum follower count requirement on a per country basis. So they've updated to be on a per region basis to make the follower count requirements less susceptible to spam and more equitable across geographies. But then, as I mentioned, they can take away the verification if you're not doing things. And these include things like verifying the email address or the phone number on the account, having a profile image, and having a display name. So I think it's actually pretty fascinating that they could theoretically take it away from somebody, because I think they should do that for a lot of these accounts. Like there's accounts that are verified that you really like. What's your definition of, I guess, verified, Jem? Who should be verified? Should everyone be able to get verified?
I would say I look at verified from a different perspective. I look at verified as like, it's almost like we've received enough information. It's kind of like when you try to get voting or whatever. Like we've seen their ID, they've proved that they live where they live. So this is really that person, as opposed to an account could be verified, but it's like, is it really a person? I mean, I think some brands do a really good job. Agora Pulse, as an example, that when they're tweeting, they will actually say who that individual from the company that's tweeting on behalf of the company, because a lot of times with a brand, you really don't know who it is. It's just the brand. So I look at it more like, is this really who they say they are, or someone, fake? Great to see Miss Eileen and, Chris Stone from Cast Ahead is in the audience as well. So great to see everyone on New Year's Eve. And what are your guys' plans? You got anything big planned, or is everyone just staying inside?
Yeah, not a whole lot on my end, but yeah, I mean, I think this is a fascinating move. I mean, by Twitter, I liked that they're reopening it. I think that at the same time, they need to, like, part of it I want to say is like, people should, like, I don't know if even I look at verification as like, hey, I open an account and then I need to verify that I'm actually that person, but that doesn't necessarily need to be equated to a check mark, I think. Does that make sense? Or
It does, but you'll see, like, I'll see people that will, especially like in sports, people will, maybe sometimes they're able to grab, a handle that's similar to the official team. And then, because that's the whole thing with the Twitter naming convention of your profile. Like, sure, you might have, as an example, you're at Social Chefs, but I could create a title that would say Social Chefs.
Right.
And unless I'm paying attention to the handle, I may not realize, like, well, wait a minute, this isn't that Social Chefs, it's some other social chef. So that's where I see the check mark being important, because then it's like, okay, I'm really tweeting with the official organization and not someone that's maybe, because unfortunately, there's still need to do some cracking down on bots and fake accounts. So that's where I think it's maybe a bigger deal.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. If I'm a business, so let's quickly talk about, if I'm a business. So for example, I mean, verifications, it's important, I think, in the sense that, to your point, it shows that somebody's actually gone through the steps. And then you do need to take that a step further and say, hey, is this an actual real account? Is this a bot? If it is, for example, then that's where they need to like clean that part up as well, because I honestly think that every account should have a verified check mark. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's two different angles, I guess. Is it verified because, hey, this is an official person? Like this is a public, a real public figure. Right. Like, for example, influencers, I don't really consider influencers. Influencers aren't public figures. I look at public figures as like somebody who is easily impersonated, whether it's a celebrity, a government official, a news source, for example, a sports team, things like that. I that's what I look at it as, like what a verified account should be. But at the same time, a verified account also could just be like, hey, maybe they need to change this wording a little bit differently. A verified account also could be, I've gone through the steps needed to actually verify my account with Twitter, so you're actually talking with an official person per se.
Well, and what's interesting, because I know, I think Facebook has kind of changed how they were doing it, or stopped doing it. I think my business page at one point was verified. Now I don't know if it's allowed to be verified, and so there's, in some aspects, and Chris and I have even seen this with some other stuff we're working on. These companies are always like changing the rules as they go along, and I think we all would just appreciate consistency. And I think, to your point, maybe by being quote unquote verified, you get access to certain features that you don't if you're not verified, because maybe some people don't want to go through that process. I think people feel, almost sometimes violated when they're asked for all this personal information, especially when you look at the current history of some of these social platforms when it comes to, just data sharing in general, even though in the fine print you basically have said you are allowing them to have access to all this information.
Definitely, and just a couple of quick points here, and then we're going to move on to the next topic. And it's the fact that, so as I mentioned, to get Twitter, for how to get verified on Twitter in 2021. So for starters, you need to have a verified email address or phone number. So if you're a business, and obviously you should have an email address, but if you don't have a phone number for your business that's separate from your business versus your personal account, you could easily go set something up. I know like Google Voice has those, and there's plenty of other ones out there. You need to have a profile image. So that's a no-brainer. Use your logo, if you don't have another photo you could use. And then a display name, very simple. Put your business name in there. Or if you're your business, put a different kind of photo. Maybe it could be like, for example, like let's say Jem, you and I were like, my photo, one could be, hey, this is the business side. And then, maybe Jem's wearing a Hawaiian shirt or something like that. And that could be his personal account or something like that, if he happens to be his business as well. But also just keep in mind that Twitter can take the verification badge away if you don't meet their requirements, or they determine that your account doesn't need to be a verified account. And they're not going to just do that. They are going to give you an automated email and an in-app notification. So if you're using Twitter, make sure you're using the Twitter app. and then just follow whatever the requirements are. And that has to be done, by the way, you have a few weeks before January 20th, 2021. So it won't lose its badge. But then after that, they, at that point, they could make some changes. But I think this is a really good idea. I mean, if I'm a business, again, I mean, just do the standard things, get your account up, do all the basic profile information. That's like step one of like many steps, obviously, Jem, with social media. Get that basic account set up so you don't have to worry about it, and then start to actually use the account. Okay.
Right.
So what's next, Jem? Where do we go from here? I mean, we talked.
Let's talk about Instagram. They've come out with some new creative tools and reels and stories. I mean, because really, I think in some aspects, if you want to talk about things in 2020 that really grew a lot across all platforms. We're going to talk a little bit more about one in a sense with YouTube a little bit later, but stories in general, right? LinkedIn now has stories, Twitter's calls theirs fleets, and Instagram, and then TikTok was exploded so much, it's kind of like when you think of what happened with Snapchat, right? Snapchat had come out with their process, which really is what evolved into stories with Instagram, because the stuff disappears in 24 hours. And when Instagram did that, and this was, I think, before they were acquired by Facebook, it really like changed the game in a sense for Snap. I mean, there's still Snapchat users, but most people are like, well, I'm already on this platform. Why do I want to go learn another one? So, they're just, this, I think, is part of the TikTok in Instagram's eyes, competitive battlefield is, definitely a threat in their eyes. So that's like, we got to add more features to get creators to either stay or come back to the platform. So they, according to Matt Navarra, they've got some new things coming out. There's an audio mix and voiceover options potentially in your Reels composition tools. And then you could add audio tracks, whether by voice or music clip, and audio level controls to further edit. But like they said, TikTok already had this functionality. Mm-hmm. So I think it's fascinating, but I think also for me, and we were having this conversation with some folks yesterday. I mean, like even what we do here, what we do with Launch Your Live, other shows that we're parts of, we're more into long form content. Right. And so I think the challenge is, what do I do when it comes to short form content? And, like I heard somebody say, I'm more of an educational type company. Like we're doing here, we're educating people about features. Can I really say that in 60 seconds or less and make it effective? Or by making multiple clips, it's like, is it really, it kind of goes back to, a phrase I like to use sometimes is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right. No, that's and,
so I think, I think that, I think it's some great stuff, but I think, I haven't checked mine in the past couple of days, but like, I just wanted to have music on my Reels for my business. They gave it to me on my personal or quote unquote creator account, but it's like, I would have probably had a lot more fun with it and maybe done a few more Reels if I could use music on my business account. Now, maybe this ability to add music clips, if it's on my business account, maybe I'll revisit that. But I don't know about you, Christian, but I feel like the feed and Instagram has become much less of a place where people focus, because people are like, they're consuming the stories. I don't know if they're consuming the Reels as much.
Right.
But I think it's kind of like any new feature. They're serving it up for people to see, because that's what they want people to do.
Definitely. And the other thing I think that is a really key point to the Reels the Reels and Stories creative tools, and this is probably I think my favorite part that they're adding, it's the fact that they're adding a Reels watermark. And and I don't say favorite, I mean, I guess the reason I like, because here's the thing, that whatever feature TikTok's going to add, anyone who's using or Instagram is going to copy it, or Snapchat or any of the services, it doesn't matter, because here's the thing, it's not unique to TikTok. It's sort of unique for that fleeting moment, but it's not unique in the sense that like TikTok doesn't own that functionality. So I like the fact that they're doing that, but then I like the fact that they are adding this watermark. And the reason I like that is because here's what most people will do. They will take their content that's on TikTok and they're going to port it over to Instagram Reels because they think that like using the same content on the same platform or on different platforms makes the most sense. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You want to make sure that whatever you're sharing is unique as much as you can make it.
Mhm.
So I like the fact that they're adding that. It also makes me wonder. I'm just a thought here, but could this be a potential monetization play at play here at work? So
Oh, no doubt in my mind. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is part of the Facebook ecosystem. It's all about
Mhm.
monetization with them. Nothing is old.
nothing is
They're
true,
they're not
right?
they're not altruistic where they're trying to help people gain traction on their businesses for free. Now, what I will say that they do that a lot of people tend to not listen to, it's kind of like when they say, "Hey, here's a new feature we really think you should use." As an example, when live videos started or communities, if you do that stuff, you get more eyes on it. But if you try to fight it, it's like, no, I'm just going to do things the way I've always done it. And then you wonder why you're not getting the same amount of views that you used to. I mean, I will say that they kind of tell you, this is what we like, this is what we want to see people do. If you do it, you get more views.
And I think that this is a good move. I think obviously by Instagram. I mean, they have to keep moving things ahead. And so
Mhm.
don't get mad if like, oh, well, hey, this feature was unique to some of your platforms and now it's on other ones. Like it's evolving the platform, trying to keep people on, for example, on Instagram, or to get them to use reels or stories or whatnot. So I think overall, I think this is a good move. Is there anything else you want to add about this, Jim?
No, I just think, make sure you keep your app updated. And in some cases, maybe you have to make sure you start using the features to get that additional functionality. So, because it seems like that's another thing I find interesting is we're not always, in a sense, on a level playing field, at least from what I've seen in some of these apps. It's like some people will get the function, some people won't. And I think it's a little unfortunate. I think everybody should be on a level playing field.
Exactly. And a couple other features, by the way, that are also there. So there's also an edit clips option within Reels that's going to give users the specific capacity to change each element. And then in addition to that, they're also working. Some users have a stories feature where they can do a camera booth mode, basically where it takes several shots in sequence. So definitely something else worth checking out. But again, I mean, it's about playing with the platform, finding what works. I mean, Instagram Reels, it's sort of new, and I say it's sort of new because it does take people, if I'm a business, it takes me a little while to get up to speed on how this can actually be useful for me. And, for Reels, if you're not used to using it, follow some of your favorite brands and see how they are using, or follow your competitors, look at what they're doing, and you have to get creative. And here's the thing, it's no longer an excuse that you don't have the tools. That's the one thing. A lot of these platforms now, they're making it super easy for you to be able to do these things. For example, the camera booth mode, it's literally just a piece of software that, you hit that button, it's a feature, and it runs that script and it says, hey, take 5 photos or however many it is. And previously, if you wanted to do something like that, you want to make creative, you had to use a bunch of other apps and things like that. So they're baking a lot of that in. So pretty neat, pretty useful. So, okay, Jem, we talked Twitter verification in 2021. We talked about new Instagram Reels, creative tools. What's next?
Let's talk for just a couple moments about this Instagram Lite. I thought that was interesting. They're testing it in India because this is something I had not thought of, and I guess they've also done it with Facebook. But it's what they literally mean by light is it's a very low, we'll call it size-wise app. I think 2 MB is what I think I read. That allows you to run the app in some of these third world countries where they don't have a lot of bandwidth, and they're just trying to make it easier for people to use their product. And so I thought that was interesting. that they are doing this. I guess they were using it before, then they kind of shut it down. Now they're kind of bringing it back. Maybe they got a lot of demand. So I just think that's something that we don't always think about because like me, I have an iPhone 11, Pro and got all kinds of capability with it. I mean, it's funny when you think about it. Our phones are more powerful than the computers we probably used when we were in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but not everybody has access to that. So I think that's a good move. Because of course in places like China they have what is it? Is it WeChat or something where everything is like in one app?
Yeah, they use
Um,
WeChat.
yeah. And it just doesn't seem like we in the US are ever going to get to that point where we're comfortable with one app to do everything. So that's why we're going to have thousands of apps on our phone.
So I actually thought that at some point Facebook was actually working towards that model. Just a thought, but yeah. So
well, but I think, do you wonder though, with some of these latest lawsuits that have been brought against them, similar to what happened to Microsoft back in the day with Internet Explorer, do you think that they're going to kind of force them to break some of their stuff up? Maybe.
I think it could happen. Here's the thing. I was thinking they were moving that direction because the whole thing was they want to, I don't say control, but they want to be able to do a lot of things in your life. So they want to have access to a lot of that. And one great way to do that is obviously to use the app because, for example, if you're not in the handset market, the only way to get in front of somebody is to have an app and to have all those different, and have multiple apps. But then at the same time, you could potentially go into one app to do everything. So it's sort of building it into the handset, because it's like, hey, it's like BYOD, bring your own device. And then Facebook would, be the primary player, I guess. But pretty fascinating. So, but yeah, overall, I knew that Light shut down a few months ago. It was earlier this year. And let's see, I can't remember if it was, there's so much news. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or like it was a few months ago, but it was recent that they shut down Light. And so usually when they shut that down, what I always think a lot of times, they're just going to, potentially revamp it. They're going to, maybe they're going to take, so it's like a piece of art, like say you go to a museum and you see a nice piece of art. They don't leave that artwork up all the time. They take it down, they replace it with some other exhibit, they clean it, they make sure that it's, being maintained and things like that. It's the same process. Facebook might take the Instagram Lite app down because here's the thing. It would not make sense for them to shut it down completely because they're ruling out all the people that are in developing countries or the people that just don't have, really good internet. And so by having the Lite app, they're still able to offer that. So I think this is a good move. We'll see again. I mean, it's currently in India, but hopefully they'll be rolling out here back in the States soon. Okay. Right. Topic number 3 for the year, Jim. What is this?
So let's go with, or you mean topic 4, right?
Or is it 4? Sorry, you're right. Yeah, 4. Sorry.
Let's talk about YouTube adding a shorts button, at least starting in India, but I think the plan is to roll that out to some of the other parts of the world as 2021 gets on.
Yes. What is this? What is this YouTube Shorts? I mean, like I know I've got
so shorts, right? Once again, now we're trying to compete with Reels, we're trying to compete with TikTok with this short form vertical video content, right? Not landscape video. And from what I hear, the people that are jumping into us are getting a ton of views off of it if they set it up right, and it stays on your YouTube channel. So it's a video on your channel just like all the others. But the problem so far had been it's hard to find it. So by adding this button, now you're going to have a way to get, in a sense, straight to that ecosystem. Because YouTube is continuing. We've talked about it over the last few months. They keep rolling new stuff out, right? This is this is not an area when we talk about all these platforms that you can just kind of sit back and say, we're done. Everything's great, because, people are always wanting more. But it also, to me, goes back to this mindset of what type of content do you like to consume?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like or is it Or is it that some generations, we won't name any specifically, just it's a short attention span. So this is the only way you're going to get them to watch something is if it's, a minute or less. And I can't even remember if a minute might be even too long on shorts. But
It's
is it 30 seconds or
I think it's
or
even
is
less
it?
than that, man. I think it's like 15 seconds potentially.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to dig into that more, but I know but it goes back to, is that where you wanna spend your time and energy, or would you rather get content? I mean, because the truth of the matter is on YouTube, unless it's changed, when people go onto YouTube, their average, I wanna say, consumption time is like 40 minutes. So people are sticking around and they're watching stuff. I mean, we've talked before, like if you look at a lot of YouTube videos that, and of course some of these are established channels, but these are 5 to 10 minute videos. They're getting thousands of views. But that same video on Facebook, people, are not hanging around. It's like this mentality based on the platform. People go to YouTube because they're searching for answers. People
Right.
go on Facebook because they want to just chill out, catch up with, friends and family, maybe get a couple laughs. Uh, and it's could be the same person. It's like we look at these platforms differently, but YouTube has now got memberships. They've got communities. I mean, for people that are getting enough, getting to the right levels with their channels. So I think this is something businesses need to pay attention to for sure. Um, and it's the second biggest search engine after Google. And oh, by the way, they're owned by Google. So yeah, I think it's a good move to make it easier for people to find this stuff if that's what they want people to actually use.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I like the idea of YouTube Shorts. I think that I like the idea of YouTube actually moving into this as well because it works so well with YouTube, with the brand, with everything they're doing. Um, because a lot of people that are looking at YouTube, I mean, they're like you said, they're going there for help for things. They know they're going for video. That's the key thing to remember. They're not going
Mhm.
there for for example, they're not going there for family updates. They're not going there to see what kind of job somebody got. They're not going there to look at your holiday photos and things like that. And that's one thing where like YouTube has a very definite what's the word I'm looking for, Jim? They have a very definite purpose.
Right.
And Facebook is a mix of all of that. And then off of Facebook, you have Instagram, which is, a little bit of it's a little a slight different variation of Facebook, and so forth. So I like the idea of YouTube Shorts. I like the idea of making that short form content. And because it's a view, I think that that's going to ratchet up people's views. I think that's
Well,
the good thing right now.
yeah, and I think another point, right? This kind of goes back to what we are talking about with Instagram. YouTube sees TikTok once again as a competitive threat to some of their traffic because some creators are going to leave YouTube and go to TikTok because I can get all these views and of course I know
Excuse me.
at least
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know if you are either yet a big TikToker, but people will get a video that'll go viral on TikTok. I don't always know what that means. Does that mean that they get a check in the mail for $10,000? I doubt it, but so
Right. Yeah.
I always for me, tongue in cheek, when people talk about how many views they get, yes, some people are definitely getting business opportunities from going, having something go viral, whatever, but you still have to
Mhm.
continue to produce content. And I think that to me is part of the challenge of this short form content is you've really got to plan it out. You've got to have a purpose behind it. And I think, and then I think I read the other day that there was some uh, TikTok, whatever it was, person that they lost a ton of viewers because of something they did that they didn't think through. I think they lost like 1 million followers because of something they did on TikTok, that just was maybe off brand. So it kind of goes back to you got to think about what you're doing just to get out there.
Yeah, but the other thing you have to look at, just from a short standpoint, is just the fact that there's a lot of work that goes into making videos.
Yep.
So it's not just like, and I'm talking long form content here. there's a lot of work that goes into making videos. People are not just what's the word I'm looking for, Jim? So like they're not just like recording, they're not just firing. So you know how you have people that tell you like, oh, just push the damn button, and like
Right.
they tell you to just do that and start talking and whatnot. But here's the thing, that's the wrong approach. Because here's the thing, it's a good approach to get you off that starting block, but there's a lot more out there you have to do. All the videos, for example, that are successful, they're not just hitting that record button, or hitting that go live button. They're doing a lot more than that behind the scenes. They've got a team, for example, that's doing their editing. They've got a team of writers, for example, that are doing the writing for them.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like somebody was talking about how, Gary V does all this stuff, but he's also got 20 people that are following around and creating, he's not personally creating all this content all by himself. So you gotta think about that when you look at some of these bigger, brands, personalities that have it's like they've got to the point where like, if I want this to scale, I got to have a team, whether it's virtual assistants, hiring people. So yeah, I mean,
and that
to
is
your
the secret
point,
right there. That is the secret sauce right there. The secret sauce is to outsource, and I'm not saying outsource everything, but the secret sauce is to outsource what you're doing.
Right.
It's to outsource it to, like first, and I'll give you an example. So it's to outsource what you're doing. So let's say you're a good writer, and you want to get on camera, for example, but you're not a good video editor. Let's say you're a teacher and you want to teach English or something like that, right? Or you want to teach a language to somebody. You're not good on camera. So hire someone to do the camera part and the video editing part. If you got if you have a kid at home, use that as well. Use them. Maybe if they're interested in that, they might be able to help you. But, outsource the part that you're not good at, or the thing that will take you the most time. Because I hear this a lot, Jem. Like a lot of people, they get hung up on, hey, I haven't done the video because I haven't had the time to sit down and edit it. Well, outsource it to somebody who can do it so you can get it off your plate. Otherwise, you're carrying that really heavy plate. And then the more stuff you stack on it, the slower you get. Yeah. So, and so that's just one thing. I mean, just something to think about. If you're trying to grow your business and you're running into some of these challenges, like, hey, what do I make for short content, for example? Well, do I have a long form content to begin with? Start with the long form content, and then what do I pull out of the long form content and make that into a short?
Right.
So lots of things that people can, work with. Okay. So we got about 15 minutes left here, Jim. And so what I want to do 3 quick things here. So the first thing is I want us to talk about this app called Clubhouse that we have, we'll talk about this for just a couple minutes here. So Clubhouse, it's a new app, and I don't say maybe it's not new. It's new to a lot of people. It's been around for a few years. But do you think it's, is this app a viable, what is Clubhouse, I guess? And then is it a viable social media platform?
So here's how I look at Clubhouse right now. At the moment, I'm a fan of Clubhouse. What I like about it is basically it's like walking into a live podcast or a radio show from the old days and being able to become a part of the conversation. The good thing in a sense is that it's not being recorded, but it's allowing you to connect with people from all various, things. I mean, I've made some new connections that I would not have made otherwise. And I say this because, as an example, if you got 1 billion people on Instagram, you got 300 something million on Twitter, those people, if they're now on Clubhouse and they're coming into a room, now I can connect with them. So it makes you like, oh, maybe I need to pay a little bit more attention to my Instagram and my Twitter profiles. But but you're able to have these great conversations. You've got some of the YouTube creators are creating these what they call rooms, so to speak, where people are having conversations like, how do you get your first 1,000 followers? And so you got people that are really good at this, giving people that are struggling free advice. So it's truly a very giving thing right now. But then there's also, I will say, there's a lot of garbage rooms going on as well. So you got, to me, it goes back to, you got to pick where you choose to spend your time. It's very easy to get sucked into, I'll call it the Clubhouse vortex. I found myself getting sucked in for 6 hours the other night, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to. I don't want to do that again." So it's just like with social media, you got to give yourself some limits to not do it. So if you're and here's the other thing, it is an iOS only app at the moment. You have to get an invite, so there is a little bit of a FOMO. But personally, I'm a fan of it. I know I've seen some people that don't want to have anything to do with it. Here's where I see some potential.
Okay.
When it becomes available on Android, and the reason I say that is because of this. As an example, after this show, if you wanted to have a Clubhouse, conversation with the people that were watching the show, you could do that. You could say, "Hey guys, we're going to go to the social chatter, what do you want to call it? After the show, and we're gonna just chat for 30 minutes about some of the topics and hear what you guys thought." Because not everybody could do that. Twitter chat, same way. You could now go have a conversation after the Twitter chat, because a Twitter chat moves so fast that you don't always see everything that was said. So that's where I see some potential benefits. But like Brian Fanzo was in a group with him last night. I don't disagree with him. Don't want to see them allow people to bring video into this. Don't want to allow them to do direct messaging, because I think that will ruin the experience. I think they've got it, they've got something good. I get it. They're probably trying to figure out how do they monetize that. I think that's still to be seen. But it's it's, so I do see some utility. I mean, you can also do private rooms. So if you wanted to have, so in a sense, it almost becomes like a conferencing app, right? But I do love the fact that I can have it sitting next to my computer. I can be listening to people having a conversation and continue to do work. So that's my take on it. I know not everybody feels the same way. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think it's an interesting app. I mean, here's the thing. What you just described essentially was having a radio on your desk to be able to listen to it throughout the day without actually having a conversation with it. Or if you want to, being able to have the conversation. It's almost like I'll say sort of eavesdropping, sort of maybe like sort of eavesdropping, but then you have the ability to hit a button and actually talk into the conversation. So I think it's interesting. I don't know if I actually see it coming to Android. It's already been out for a while. I don't know if they'll actually want to come to Android. Again, I mean, it comes down to the user, and a lot of people, they use iOS because iOS is where most of the users are at. Android people, for the most part, they're tinkerers. I mean, I love Android devices as well. I do have, I have both devices, but I'm primarily an iOS user. And that's just because I like the ecosystem. I like the way things work. I trust it a little bit more, than I do the Android side. So I don't know if it's ever going to come to Android, even though they might say, "Hey, we're working on it." I've heard that too many times with software. Is it the next big thing? I mean, Twitter has been working on Twitter. What is it? Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, Twitter Spaces. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I just think it kind of goes back to, I think that, audio, I think audio will continue to grow, right? Whether it's podcast, whether it's whatever, because there's still a lot of people. Here's the other, if you want to call it the benefit of Clubhouse, Judy Fox and I were chatting about this, you don't have to be camera ready to get on Clubhouse.
Right.
Nope.
Exactly.
And some people still have that fear, even with Zoom and everything else, or they're like, I'd love to listen to this conversation, but I don't have the time to get somewhere where I'm, can get on a camera.
Right.
It's kind of like when people are on a Zoom and they've got their camera off, you're kind of like, what are these people doing? But with Clubhouse, it's not looked at, it's like, okay, you can just sit in the audience and listen, or you can kind of raise your hand and say, "Hey, I'd like to, say a couple words or ask questions," or you can start your own rooms and, start your own conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think here's the thing. I think it's a good idea. I like the fact that it does lower the barrier to entry for people to join. Do I think it's new? No, not at all. It's only popular because, part of it, I think, is like, I think people are kind of bored. Like, I mean, seriously, like, you got people talking about it. Like, I mean, we're talking about it only because like we've had people, we're in the marketing space, so we've had people ask us about it, but I don't really think it's new. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of these people are bored. They're bored in the sense that they want to try to find what they think is the next big thing. But I like the fact that it does lower their barrier to entry. And also, going back to your point earlier, we talked about Instagram Lite. I like the fact that Clubhouse is technically, I guess you could say, it's a very low. It requires a low amount of data to use as opposed to video. And then it also is that big thing that you talked about, which is somebody being on camera and not being, it's not necessarily about on camera confidence, not being ready to be on camera. Zoom has the feature to be able to do, you can do audio only there. In StreamYard here, I can go to audio only, for example, just by, stopping.
Oh, Christian will be back momentarily. I think he had a quick camera issue. There he is. I was like,
Yeah. So, but you can go in StreamYard, for example, I can go into audio only mode as well. So like that way I don't have to be on camera. So I like the idea of Clubhouse. Again, I mean, the key thing I think to Jim's point, you made me laugh there when you said, "Hey, I was on there for like 6 hours," and it's because when I started live streaming, it's the same thing. I started live streaming, and what was the big thing? Like you had no direction. So that is something you're going to want to spend the time doing. You're going to want to spend the time figuring out what you're going to talk about. Like you still have to do the planning. It's not just like, hey, I hit the
right,
start and then start a room and now I'm going to start talking. You have to be prepared with
right.
what you talk about.
Yep,
Otherwise, your conversation is going to go on for a long time. And you have to set the boundaries. You have to say, hey, you know what? My boundaries are going to be what? Oh, I'm going to be on for 45 minutes or I'm going to be on for 15 minutes. Give yourself like time to create, but also some time to consume.
right,
Yeah. But don't consume all the time. Because if you're consuming all the time, then you're gonna, as people say, like, hey, it's a waste of time, because if that's all you're doing, then you can't be growing as well.
yep.
So that's my thoughts on Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse as well at Christian K. By the way, one other little point, Gem, about Clubhouse is that when somebody does get invited, you have to be mindful of this. So, for example, if Jem sent me an invite to join, wink, wink, Jem, um, it will actually show that Jem is the one who invited me to join Clubhouse, and it's going to always be there on your profile. I think that's actually a pretty cool thing. If you've got like, you just have to be mindful. Like, if you're going to invite yourself, for example, that's going to show that you invited yourself. Well, hey, that might show that, well, hey, this person doesn't have influence or whatever. So, anything else you want to add about Clubhouse, Jim?
No, I just think it'll be interesting to see how it evolves over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, and one other quick thing about Clubhouse, just be mindful when you go to download the Clubhouse app. There are actually a couple of different Clubhouse apps. So I'm
Right.
going to show you guys what the one is that you want to actually look at. And so you might look at this and you might be like, well, what the heck is this icon? So this is the Clubhouse app you want to download, the one with this musician in it. So that's the one you want to actually go for. There's another one. It also comes up as Clubhouse as well because it's also named Clubhouse. But make sure you download the right one. The other one I think is like some kind of maybe project management app or something.
Right.
So two last topics before we wrap up. Our 272nd episode of Social Chatter spanned over quite a number of years here. I mean, I started on Blab literally when the first day they rolled out. And, it's something that's, it's a labor of love, something that I continue to do every single week. We did take last week off, but again, that was also because it was Thanksgiving. But so let's
Christmas
talk,
Eve.
or was it Christmas Eve? Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, it all runs together.
I know, like, right. Sorry. Thanks, Jem. Thanks for catching me on that one. So that one's immortalized on YouTube. Fantastic. Okay. So now we're going to talk about two tools we think can help you as a business in a segment we could like to call Tool Time. And Jem, I want to have you start. What's the first tool we're going to talk about?
Yeah, the first tool we're going to talk about is Social Remix, and this is a tool from Dustin Stout, and it's pretty interesting. He's really helped come up with a way for you to shorten the timeline of getting content out on your or taking a piece of content, let me rephrase that, and getting it out on multiple platforms, but having it where each is like unique and not, it's not like taking one post and just putting the same exact thing on every platform.
So what do I do here? Like, what is this? So how much does it cost, and what do I do?
Well, I haven't used it myself. I don't know that I saw what the actual cost was, but I know you can try it for free. But he's got a nice video here. I don't know if you want to show folks the video. I don't know if maybe that'll be a
You know,
better explanation.
really play the video, I guess. I'm gonna just fast forward to a couple of different parts and just kind of walk
Yeah,
through the way it works.
yeah,
Okay. So you start off by creating a campaign. Okay. So first thing is campaigns. And then as you can see on the screen here, you have various sections that you're filling out. So for example, you put in if there are any hashtags, for example, that you want to use and so forth. So you put your hashtags in, you do upload your images. And then what it will actually do as I fast forward through here is now, as you can see here are various messages for Facebook. And so I could have 5 different options for Facebook for this one piece of content. So it's basically remixing the images that you give them the images and the hashtags that you want to include and some of the information. And then you can go in and you can create, for example, 15 tweets, 3 Instagram messages, 5 Pinterest messages. So you basically can get 30 pieces of content um, using the social remix tool, and it is free for now. Again, it's in beta, so you do have to maybe expect some bugs, but that's essentially what it does. So I think overall, from a user perspective, I mean, this is if I'm a business and I struggle with coming up with content to share. For example, a lot of people, as you mentioned, they take the same message and they post it across all their networks. This will allow me to now put that put that information in there and create all those different social posts. So I think that's a very useful tool, especially if I am a business. So I think the key thing is it's about saving you time and working smarter, not harder, at what you're doing. I mean, you can put in the most work, but hey, if it's just a social post, and as you mentioned all the time, Jim, if it only lives for a very short amount of time, why are you spending all the time creating like people spend hours crafting the perfect copy when it's only literally out there for a split second. So you just have to be
right.
mindful about that. And the tool will help you create 30 posts in about 60 seconds. So again, probably a little bit longer if you've never used it before, but put in your content and then you can go in and break it out for each platform. Okay. So what's
Yep.
the second tool, Jim, for the week?
The second one is interesting. It's called ClipChamp, and it's a video editing tool. It's got a lot of features. It's got a free version, and of course, there's a ton of video editing tools. But I will say what I don't like about the free version
Mhm.
is you only can do 480p.
Okay. Yeah.
That to me was a turn off. To get it up to 1080, you're gonna have to get into the paid plans. So for me, I don't know. Maybe you have a different thought. That to me was, even though it's got a lot of great features, you're gonna have to go into a paid plan to really make it worthwhile. So I don't know. Maybe trying it out. Gives you but some things. So even with the creator plan at $9 a month, you're going to get 720p exports,
Yeah.
and that's fine for things like Facebook. But we got people now that want 1080 and 4K,
Yeah.
and so you know, uh, you might want to look at some other stuff as well. I mean, that's the problem, right? So I always joke with you. There's so many tools out there.
Mhm.
It's sometimes really hard to tell what does it, but it does have some nice features. I think if you click on it might be under the creator under the tools, you can see it's got, yeah, right there. You got a video maker. You can do YouTube, and that's why when they say, well, you can do YouTube videos, well, I'm not going to want to do it at 480p.
Right.
So that's where I was like, um, yeah, it's got some nice stuff. It's got a library, but I mean, unless there's a way, I don't think there's going to be a way that you can upgrade the the pixels, so to speak, or the
Right.
once you've downloaded it at that lower
Yeah.
resolution.
I mean, here's the thing. The other features though that at least I think are also really useful here. So back to your point, yes, like the 480p, that's a non-starter. I mean, for the most part,
Yep.
like I'll use the free version, I'll see if I like it, but then I'm going to quickly want to either bump up to the creator or the business plan. And obviously, the business plan is the most popular because of the fact that it's got 1080p exports, but it also has custom branding. So, that's another big, big, big piece there. People are going to want that custom branding because they want to make that video with their logo on it.
Right.
So, I don't think it's that big of a jump. But to your point, yeah, I mean, there's always tools out there to help you with the video editing aspect. Now, on the flip side, the parts that I really actually like are this. I like the compress and the convert option. Uh, Obviously, I mean, the webcam and the screen recorder is also nice. So you could spend, if I were on a Mac and I were using a screen recorder, there are apps that are, $120. And it's not because it's a Mac, it's because it's a really good product, but they're just for screen recording, for example, or webcam recording. So this also has some features. It's got the compress feature and the convert feature so that if you need to, instead of having to have multiple pieces of software, you can use ClipChamp to help you do that. You can create your video, you get a lot of stock editing options, and then you can move it into compressing it properly for your platforms. So that's something to also consider. But yeah, to your point, Jem, I mean, the quality is the big thing. Again, I mean, if we're spending hundreds of dollars on a camera, we want to make sure that we're able to record in the native resolution that we're using. So, but here's the thing. It's another tool in your toolbox. And I know, Jem, we have multiple versions of a tool. We might use 5 different video apps for different things, or we might have subscriptions to 5 apps. Find the one that works the best for you and use it versus sticking with something that is not actually helping you move the needle from a tool standpoint. So, anything else you want to add, Jim?
No, I just think, just be aware that, if you're going to use the free version, you're going to be at 480p, and that's probably not going to serve you well. But maybe with the free trial, it lets you try some of the better features first. But yeah, I would say you got to at least go with the creator plan. But even then, the 720 will work on Facebook. But you start looking at YouTube, you're probably going to want to do your stuff in at least 1080p.
Yeah, great points. So anything else you want to add as far as this week's show? I mean, we talked about Twitter verification in 2021. I mean, it's coming. Make
Yeah,
sure you're
tomorrow.
doing.
Well, it's not coming tomorrow, but 2021 will be here in just a few hours, right? And I know how many
Yeah,
people can't wait to put 2020 in their rearview mirror. But yeah, so
definitely.
yeah, I mean, you've had a crazy year. I mean, I love even like I can see you're using the new branding on
Mhm.
that StreamYard's made available with
New
I like
theme, yeah, yeah.
the rounded theme, and I know even with the sharing the can you show people real quick, maybe share with the new uh feature of the comment share? I think there's like a way you can share it kind of rounded like a bubble. I've seen a couple people do
Yeah, sure. Actually, here. So let me do some of the. I think you're talking about the banner. Or, hold on. Actually, yeah, you've got the comments. So let's find a comment here. Let's see. So let's see. Let's go back and find. Let's go to Chris's comment here. So he was talking about
yeah.
like my microphone. I mean, that looks fantastic. I love the animation that we've added as well on
Mhm.
StreamYard. In addition to that, there's also just a couple of quick little things here. So we've changed some of the themes recently. So this was the theme we started out with throughout the
Right.
year. We recently, and then there was also the minimal option. But as you can see, there's that nice little animation that comes in when people switch. Then we go into the block one also, and then we go into bubble. And bubble's what I like bubble. I got to say it. I really do. I like this. It looks clean, looks fresh.
Mhm.
Um, and then in addition to that, that does carry over, by the way. So for those of you who want to get the email newsletter, for example, just going to show you guys a couple of things here. So this is the ticker. Obviously, the ticker is just like it was before. But then, for example, if you want to connect with Jem, for example, Jem, I'm going to just play a couple of these. So Jem now here has this fantastic bubble look for the
Oh,
this
for
is
the
for the
banner.
banner. Yeah. So we got that. And then in addition to that, I'm going to also play a couple of things here. So that's Gem. And then if you want to get the the recap of this week's post, again, you can go to socialshuffs.com/SC272. So there's the bubble with the lower ticker. And then also, just wrapping things up, I guess. I mean, our show next week, we've got Juliet Stapleton's going to kick things off. I think did I get the date right? I got the year right. Obviously.
You did get the date right. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. So we got her. She's going to be coming on the show for 273, and that's on youtube.com/social chefs or facebook.com/social chefs. But I hope everybody has a fantastic new year and a lot of looking for a lot of just great things for 2021. Jem, thanks again also for just co-hosting with me throughout the year. I mean, it's just been
it's been fun.
A lot of fun. And then also just our work with Launcher Live and whatnot. So I'm really excited for what all's to come in 2021. But thanks a lot
great.
for watching, and we'll see you all.
Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next year.
Bye, everyone.